basic question off the top. Many people are wondering, do House Republicans have enough votes to pass school vouchers?
Well, that's yet to be determined, but I certainly think not. I think there's a large number of Republican representatives and Democratic representatives that want to see our public schools funded fully. That is the primary objective. We talked all last session about how do we properly fund our schools, and of course we left some money in the budget because we could not agree with the governor, and so there was approximately $5.2 billion left in the budget to fund teacher pay raise.
Let's stop there for just a moment. My name is Dave Welch. I'm the founder and president of the U.S. Pastor Council, and this is the Christian Citizen Podcast. We're talking today about school choice in Texas, and what you just heard was an interview by State Representative Drew Darby of the San Angelo area, talking about this concept of school choice. And right out of the gates, he presents a false narrative of those radically defending the government school system from any competition whatsoever. Because just remember, he talked about we have to adequately fund the public schools. Well, as we well know, in government lexicon, what is adequate funding? Because in the government school system, it's basically the proverbial fire that is never adequately fed. It's never satisfied. There's never enough money. We now are spending upwards of $14,000 per student per year in the state of Texas, which is substantially more. Obviously, it's higher than it's ever been. And we keep increasing that, no matter what the defenders of the government system say, constantly whining about underfunded schools. The fact is we're spending more per student than ever before and getting less for it. But somehow that's still not enough to take a fraction of that money. Because remember, you just said that we're talking about $52 billion in the budget to fund education. According to the Texas Education Association, their numbers show the 2022-23 school year, there are 5,518,432 students were enrolled in the Texas public schools, 5 million students. The education savings accounts and school choice proposals on the table would have potentially affected and allowed maybe 25,000 students to participate at a cost of about $500 million. $500 million out of $52 billion. But somehow that is a threat to the government school system. The indefensible, irrational, and just blind, myopic defense of a government school system at all costs by people like Drew Darby is what we're up against in the Republican legislature right now in the state of Texas. Let's continue and listen to a little bit more of what he's got to say.
School safety issues. And there was a $500 million contingent rider that was put in the budget to fund $500 million worth of ESAs. So that's money that we left in the budget. We provided property tax relief and border relief and all kinds of funding of state services, but we did not fund what I think is a critical infrastructure need, and that is addressing the teacher needs with pay raises and school safety. We required them to do a lot in school safety, but we didn't give them the money to do it.
Let me ask you about that. The House did reach a compromise. House Republicans did a bill that would allow limited vouchers, but the bill also calls for more money to the basic allotment to public education and a pay raise for teachers. Did that have any support among rural Republicans?
Well, let me kind of give you a little background. Of course, the Senate passed over SB 1, which is the $500 million ESA program. And then in Senate Bill 2, they allocated several billions of dollars worth of teacher pay raises and school safety issues. So those are two separate bills. The governor's call said that he would only allow the issue of ESAs to be discussed before he would talk about school funding. So that has been problematic from the start for the Texas House. We have different ideas on how and when we should fund our teachers and our schools. So Chairman Buckley has done a magnificent job of trying to listen to all various stakeholders in this matter. He's worked closely with the governor's office. He's worked closely with a number of House members that are very much policy oriented here in the House, folks that are well respected in their knowledge of public education.
Again, I'm just going to pause there for a moment. The opponents of school choice are committed to stopping school choice entirely. And that when we're talking about school choice, what we're discussing here is empowering parents to have the ability economically to place their children in the educational environment that is best for that child. And I'm going to reference an article by this same individual, Drew Darby. Again, indefensible doublespeak is really what we're up against here, because as he says, quote, the reality is we have that choice now. He said students can attend public schools, private schools, a parochial school, a charter school, and they have a large homeschool community. He said that is choice. You could do all of that in communities like San Angelo. And then he also goes on to talk about the issue is the flow of dollars. Well, that's exactly right, because you can choose to take your child out of the government schools right now, and you can homeschool. My family homeschooled. Homeschool has exploded in the state of Texas. You take your child, put them in a private school, a Christian school, a parochial school, some other form of educational environment. But guess what? The key issue is that you get to pay for it twice. So what they're saying is we are demanding that the entire public pay for education for all children. But if you believe that faith and character and values and principle and sound academics should be part of your child's education, we're going to discriminate against you, and we're going to make you pay twice for that education to get that for your child, because this government system will not include that. Now, they claim the contrary, and it's all these battles about the standards for schools, the testing procedures, and all these other myriad of things that they get swirled about are a constant stew of confusion. The net result is that the academic quality of the government school system is abysmal, because partly and solely because they say you cannot connect religion to education. Because one of the major arguments right now is, well, if we give public money to private schools, then we're funding religion, which essentially then again, what they're saying is they're admitting that they have been successfully expunged religion, particularly Judeo-Christian faith and principles, from this. And people like Darby demand, he says, they want, if they do provide any kind of choice, he says they want to have the same accountability, aka testing, transparency, and open enrollment policies. Well, the fact of the matter is right now that nearly every charter and private school and Christian school that I have had any contact with in the state of Texas has long waiting lists. Okay, the students are not being served. Families are even willing to go pay that extra suffer and sacrifice because they're producing better results. And that's something they don't want to deal with. He says, after that, he says they might consider a limited program with certain provisions, such as an evaluation process, testing requirements, and open enrollment policies. So what they want is for parents to be able to take their children out of the failing government school system, and place them into a system that's also going to be forced to fail, because they want government overloaded on top of that. Well, that's not going to work. And we will not support any kind of school choice that allows government interference with the decisions of curriculum and programs by the parents and by those parents' schools that they choose. So that's another issue that we take exception with, government school hacks like Drew Darby. Let's continue this.
And how we fund public education. So they've been working together to try to find or craft together a bill that they think might have a chance of, one, getting out of committee. There has been a special public ed committee established by the Speaker of the House, and that would be the committee in which this bill would be referred. And so Chairman Buckley, is, to his credit, has been working very diligently in trying to find a pathway forward that would balance school funding, which we all deem important, along with a limited ESA program that he thinks could get out of the committee and might have a chance on the Texas House. And so kind of the negotiations broke down, I believe, and so he, in the interest of time and allowing for further discussion, filed HB1, which is the House's version of what might be possible.
Once again, so HB1, which by the way now has morphed into another compromise version, but supposedly we're between the House leadership and the governor. It appears right now. Now we still haven't seen the text of that compromise yet in its full nature. It doesn't appear that the Senate leadership is satisfied with that yet. So that's something we have to look at, because here's part of the problem. Again, the pushback by the House Republican leadership and those on this committee, including Chairman Buckley, have been rabidly defending the full funding of the government school system in such a way that any kind of parent empowerment and through educational savings accounts has such limited funding. And what they would like to see is maximum government oversight to the extent that it essentially squelches any potentially positive results coming out of it that would show its value and help it to grow. So this is, again, the issue that was eventually, frankly, we're going to have to address in the next Republican primary cycle by people like Darby, the Speaker Buckley, and others who refused to do anything other than defend their government school systems and empower parents in failing schools all over the state of Texas to say, we want our children to be taught fundamental, sound values in their faith, their character, their morals, traditional classical education, other models than what is the one size cookie cutter government run system that is, by the way, a federal government system that has been in place now, well, since 1980, when it was federalized under Jimmy Carter and the Department of Education, but a government school system that has been systematically, intentionally weaving humanistic, socialistic, Marxist principles into its apparatus since John Dewey, Horace Mann, and those radical socialists and humanists founded it over 140 years ago. And a closing thought on this, and we will be asking pastors to step forward and start teaching our people the importance and the value in speaking and standing to defend our children against government monopoly of education. What's more important than training up our children to follow the Lord and teaching them his ways and not have to combat and fight what they're being taught in the school system every single day? That's insane. It's indefensible biblically. And pastors, if you're not willing to speak up on this issue, frankly, I'm saying maybe you should consider finding another position, as it's time we take our faith seriously, the word of God seriously, and our charge seriously, that we're responsible for the children, not the state. And these Republicans who can't figure that out should be replaced, taken out of office, and we need to put people in there who do respect and fear God, love the Constitution, care about the rights of parents. This is what we're going to be asking and demanding as we go forward. So I would urge people right now, and this is one of the things that we're about action, and we have to pray. We're praying for wisdom, praying for grace. But I urge people to call Drew Darby's office, Representative Drew Darby. That number is 512-463-0331. That's 512-463-0331. And urge him, even if you're not in his district, call his office and say that the parents are responsible for raising up children. Those parents should be empowered to choose the best educational environment for their children. And we want an educational savings account program passed that makes it accessible to as many parents in the state as possible without restraint and restriction and discrimination. So again, call Drew Darby. That's 512-463-0331. And call State Representative Brad Buckley as well as the chairman of the committee, and we'll get that number and post it on for you as well. But pastors, light up the pulpits. It's time for us to stand and speak in truth. Thank you for this issue, and watch and listen for more editions of the Christian Citizen Podcast as we engage our pastors, engage our churches to bring truth and God's love and grace to the marketplace, the battlefield of governing. God bless you.